Hi, my name is Brittany and I'm a human resources and organizational development consultant. I'm an internal consultant at a healthcare system. My typical day varies because sometimes I will spend all day presenting to groups for training or new employee orientation. I work very closely with directors in two departments, which is human resources as well as organizational development. I work in an office primarily. Some days I'll work independently and I'll do research all day. And other days I may spend at the hospital doing coaching with leaders in order to improve the work environment for their employees so that they can in turn provide better patient care, which will then in turn impact our market share, for instance. So other things that I do include training or just customized approaches to improve business results. Things that I'm responsible for my job, I'll kind of expand on that. I'm responsible for planning and implementing special projects for the Chief Human Resource Officer of our healthcare system. She is the what they call the CHRO, and she's a Senior Vice President. So a lot of times she will assign me to work on special projects in which I have to develop a project plan, an implementation plan, and then actually implement it and keep her abreast as to what's going on. Sometimes that includes budgets. Additionally, I facilitate new employee orientation, and so we have orientation every 2 weeks. And typically we have about 50 new employees that we hire. So we have a rotating schedule. So every 2 weeks I'm facilitating at least one day of orientation. I also do training development. So if there's a specified training need in the healthcare system, I will work with the director of organizational development as well as the director of education, and we will all three conduct a needs assessment and then design the training program to best meet the needs of the individuals that need the training. Further, I mentioned earlier that I coach leaders within the healthcare system. So that really just means that I spend a specific amount of time, usually an hour, talking to them about their work environment. So things that are going well for their employees, any recurring issues that they may have, and then things that aren't going very well. And we talk about potential things that we can do to improve the work environment to impact turnover. So to reduce turnover, which then reduces costs for our healthcare system. I also do a lot of research. I do internal research as well as external research. So for internal research, I would try to identify reasons for turnover, as I mentioned, as well as identifying the best places to recruit some employees, for instance, or designing a new model for conducting business. So I would do research on the leading practice in the industry for business design, things of that nature. Also, I do a lot of writing. I write policies, I write the training, I write presentations, I write articles for our bi-weekly newsletter that we do here. I also write communications for our senior leaders. I do an initial draft and then they edit it based on the content that they specifically want. And then a major part of my job, and my favorite part of my job, is working with the employee opinion survey or the employee satisfaction survey. And we do that about every 2 years, and I'm responsible for planning that process as well as implementing it and following up on it. So I plan the survey process, so to deploy the survey, share the results, teach the leaders of the work groups how to interpret their results. And then action planning is really where the rubber meets the road in terms of making their work group a better place to work. So how to improve the work environment so that people are happy when they come to work. And I really enjoy that because I get to do a lot of different things that involve data analysis. I work with the leaders directly in improving their work environment. And I also hear a lot from the associates as to what they like to do here and things that are going well and then things that aren't going so well. And then I then can make changes based on what they tell me, and that's very rewarding for me. Typical hours that I work a week would be about 45. Our office hours are from 8 to 4:30 with a 30-minute lunch break, but typically I work from about 7:30 in the morning until about 5. And it's sad to say, but I actually eat right here at my desk most days, so I don't take my 30-minute lunch break. We're in healthcare, and so some healthcare systems do it differently, but here we are allowed 30 minutes, just like the clinical staff, for lunch. And sometimes my work requires that I work in the evenings or on weekends to accommodate the employees that work night shift or solely on weekends. So if I'm doing focus groups or things of that nature, I have to come in when they're working so that I can get their input as well. In terms of the stress level for my job, it's not incredibly stressful, and I say that because I see people that are, doing neurosurgery or delivering babies, and I think that that would be incredibly stressful. The majority of my stress comes from meeting deadlines. So deadlines imposed by other people and then making sure that my deliverable is ready in time. In terms of degrees that are required for this specific role, there isn't a specific required degree to have this role. They had wanted a master's preferred in either organizational development or business or management. I would recommend a bachelor's degree in either psychology, management, or business. I personally have a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology, and in terms of that degree, I think that that would be the best degree that I would recommend because it prepares you to work in the real world setting, but to have a lot of exposure to different fields, not just management, not just business, and not just human resources. And it pulls from a lot of theory, and then you have a great opportunity to go into a workplace in an applied setting and apply that theory. And it's research based, and you can do a lot of things with this degree. Anything that I didn't expect about this specific role whenever I took it on was the amount of writing that I would be required to do. I mentioned earlier that I write a lot, and that was something I didn't like in graduate school or undergrad, but I feel that I've improved greatly since having this job. The best part of my job, which is my favorite part of the job, which I mentioned earlier, is improving the work environment for employees so that they can then, in turn, provide better patient care, which really improves the patient experience. My least favorite part of my job, or the thing I dislike the most, is that some of my work requires inputs or deliverables from other people so that I can finalize my product or deliverable. So sometimes that impacts my timeline or how fast I'm able to complete something. In terms of any final advice that I have for any students interested in this field or this type of work would be to take more statistics courses. I know it may not seem as important at the time, but that is one thing that I wish that I would have taken more of, and maybe it would have been more helpful to have applied statistics courses rather than theoretical statistics, which is generally the requirement. Further, I would recommend taking a finance course, maybe Introduction to Finance, so that I would understand budgeting process better. That's something that I need to learn more about, especially working in healthcare. So if you don't work in a field that's driven by finances so much, or that you would have an impact on budgeting process, it may not be absolutely necessary. Also, I would recommend obtaining a professional certification. For instance, there's a Professional in Human Resources certification through the Society of Human Resources Management, also known as SHRM. That is something that I didn't originally obtain, but I did obtain it while in this position because it was a requirement for my position. I would recommend doing something like that to set you apart from other individuals that may be applying for a position. And it also is a known quantity that people recognize in the field, having a professional certification. I would definitely recommend obtaining internships or any applied working experiences in the field in which you want to go into. No matter what that is, I think it's extremely important that you find out before you invest a lot of time and energy in your degree or in your career path, to find out that you like it before you do it, because people spend the majority of their waking hours at work. And so I think that it would be incredibly important to do something that you really, really enjoy and that you really like. So that's my advice.